Hi. Okay, so there was a movie that I said it suddenly popped in my head. So we're gonna talk about it. Um, get this out of the way. When I was a kid, claymation was popular. By the mid '90s, it started to slow down. It was still around because it was like Wallace and Gromit. And when I graduated high school, Chicken Run came into theaters. I went and saw it in the theater. I was a senior in high school and we all saw it. But yeah, pretty much after I graduated, Wallace and Gromit was. And I know that the creators of Wallace and Gromit still are around. And but for the most part, it it's not really as popular as it was when I was a kid. In the 80s, claymation was everywhere. So, the reason that I'm talking about it is because of this particular movie. And yeah, there were TV series. I can't think of any TV series, but no, there was one. And it was so ridiculous. It was called The Adventures of Mr. Bogus. And then there was also Bump in the Night, Mr. Bumpy, Bump in the Night, and then there was Mr. Bogus. And there were just these Miss Bump in the Night was about this creature under the bed and its little misadventures. And there was also, and Mr. Bogus was about this yellow creature that wandered around the house and everything. And I remember became, somehow, he became popular with the little kids. And he helped, they had these, I'm sure you've seen on YouTube where they have a collection of the drug-free commercials. And yeah, he was one of those. They had like Ninja Turtles did one of them, and yeah, he was part of that. And not Mr. Bumpy though. And then I don't think Mr. Bumpy lasted very long. And when Saturday morning cartoons came around, ABC, when you would go to a commercial, ABC had these little things. I think YouTube has those. They were fun little things. Like they had a dog with a fire hydrant. They had a guitarist, and he did a little, a little ditty and everything. So claymation was around, like I said, about the mid '90s, and then it just kind of slowed down. It was still around, but not like it was in the '80s. So this particular film is called The Adventures of Mark Twain. Now, in the United Kingdom, or the UK, it was called Comet Quest. It was released in 1985. It's stop motion claymation, which, but and seen as a fantasy film, and it does have a DVD release as of 2006. That I did not know. And when you watch it, it has. When I was a kid, it was very trippy. It was really odd because you see the claymation and then it has like the um lighting, um photography ideas, so they did like cool lighting against the characters and everything. So it was really, some of it was spooky, some of it was just cool. So the idea of the idea of the film is basically Mark Twain is trying to keep his like appointment with Halley's Comet, and three kids are with him. Kids' names: Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, and Becky Thatcher. Now, the thing is, it's dark. There's like one scene in it that's like, I remember this scene and it terrified me. Because like all of a sudden it got super dark and it just went, it didn't make any sense to the rest of it. It was terrifying. So they're traveling around in an airship, and basically the whole idea is that you see different pieces in his stories. And so Mark Twain is piloting this ship to meet Halley's Comet. And so yeah, when the kids discover what his real reason behind his journey, because it seems like he lied to them or something. And so Mark Twain has this dark side, and that's the reason for this weird, trippy scene. And it was just so. Now, I don't remember. Let's see. So, included are sketches taken from Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Mysterious Strangers, The Diaries of Adam and Eve, Letters from Earth, Captain Stormfield's Visit to Heaven, and a rendering of Twain's first story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. References are made to his other works, including The Damned Human Race. This animated film was shot in Portland, Oregon. Let's see what this says. I remember watching it on TV and everything, and it just. Oh my gosh. And then I didn't tell my mom about the creepy part, about the crazy dark part. And, you know, that's the funny thing, is that during that time there were a lot of scary parts in movies, in the animated movie. I know that you guys are like, why do they put that in movie? You know, like Great Mouse Detective had the part where Ratigan suddenly turns into a rat. You know, he's been denying that he's a rat, and then all of a sudden he goes all crazy and everything. And then there's the Mouse of Minsk in But even at the beginning, where the Russian cats attack, at the very beginning, the reason that they go to America, that was pretty scary. I mean, I love that. I don't like the sequel, the Western one. It was so bad. I watched it quite a bit when I was a kid, but then I went and watched it again. I'm like, just doesn't have the nostalgia that the first one does. I could watch the first one for days. But yeah, the Mouse of Minsk was scary, and the beginning where the Russian cats come and, you know, because it was during the war. I think that's what was going on. But anyway, yeah, there was like the something was going on, and then Secret of Nim. My dad, my dad has this obsession with Watership Down. Now I read the book, but and that was pretty scary. But he insisted that I watch the the movie. I'm watching the movie, and that gave me nightmares. My mom was so mad when she found out. That was one that they did not agree on at all. Oh my gosh. I don't know why he insisted that I see that. I was like, I'm 7 years old. Yeah, I've seen some of this other stuff, but that one was. It's a terrifying. You don't let your kids see something like that. That's way too. It's a fantastic story. I mean, it's a important story, but the old the 70s version is just terrifying. More terrifying than some of the other stuff that I grew up watching. But anyway, this um oh, I remember watching Pinocchio, and Monstro scared me. There's that one part where he's going, you see him where Geppetto and Pinocchio escape, and Monstro's coming, and he opens his mouth wide. Scared me to death. So yeah, there's a lot of movies that I grew up watching, and and there were some TV shows too, some that were just scary. And but this one, there was just something about that particular scene and some of the lighting stuff that they did. It was just. I never told my mom, so here she is. She wanted to sit down and watch it with me, and I couldn't do it. It's like, no, I'm not interested. But then she decided to watch it anyway because she likes Mark Twain. So she's watching it, and she's like, we're not going to talk about this ever again. So yeah. Let's see. James Whitmore was the voice of Mark Twain. I don't remember. Well, he was in The Shawshank Redemption. When did he die? He died 10 years ago in 2009. I was wondering if there was anything. Oh, he was in Gunsmoke. Well, anyway. But it looks like a lot of the other voice actors aren't really. Oh. So, um. Michelle Mariana, who was the voice actress for Becky Thatcher, she was in Coraline. Was she in the soundtrack? Yeah, looks like she was in the soundtrack for Coraline. Let's see, Yuri Krug. This is the only thing he was in. He was Huck Finn. And this was the only thing he was in. Okay, so here it says this is the first full-length feature in clay animation, which I didn't. I thought there was another one that was before this one. This doesn't surprise me. A live-action black and white version of the movie was shot and used as reference by the animators. Well, that's kind of what Walt Disney did. I mean, you see those pictures from behind the scenes where he has the actors. I mean, just like Mary Costa, who was the voice for Aurora in Sleeping Beauty, and she's dancing around and they're taking pictures of her motion and everything. You see that and everything else. And so it doesn't surprise me that they did something like that. Okay. So anyway, I don't want to get too far into this like I tend to do. Like I said, claymation was very popular in the 80s. And TV shows, the only two that I could think, I know that California Raisins. I can't believe I forgot about them. Yeah, the California Raisins were very, very popular. And in fact, my grandmother still has a few of those. You used to be able to get in the cereal boxes you would send away for them with the proof of purchase. They don't do stuff like that anymore. And you would send away. And you used to be able to get them where they were these little California, they were like little figures, and they looked like pop artists of the time, or musicians of the time. So like Michael Jackson, I know that there's about him now, but it wasn't, nobody knew about that stuff in the 80s. I mean, nobody. He had just released his Bad album. So and so a lot of those artists, they looked like them. They had a TV series. There was also a Christmas special. So yeah, there was that claymation. Seemed like there were several others. But anyway, so yeah, there were claymation TV shows, but I can only think of them. And like I said, Bump in the Night and Mr. Mr. And ABC, when Saturday morning cartoons came around, whenever there was a commercial break, there was claymation, little fun little things. I think YouTube, you can find them. And then when they would come back, it was just fun little things. And but anyway, and but this particular movie, oops, went too far. It was released in 1985. And when it was released in the UK, it's called Comic Quest. And pretty much characters from Mark Twain's books, Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, and Becky Thatcher, meet up with him, and they're going on this journey, and he kind of deceives them into thinking that they're going on another adventure, and it turns out once they find out what's going on, they try and stop him, and turns into craziness. And it does get dark. It gets very dark, but if you've watched a lot of stuff from the 80s, a lot of animated stuff from the 80s, there tends to be darkness. Skeletor's dark. When you have a character named Skeletor and you see what he looks like, that's dark. Dark humor, that's what it is. So anyway, yeah, I don't know what it was that triggered me remembering this, but I just, a little bit of nostalgia, it terrified me. And to the point, yeah, like I said, I don't know why my dad insisted that I see Watership Down, but that was, if you've ever seen the 70s version of Watership Down, it's Watership Down is an important story to read. It's a good story, but the animated movie is just morbid. But anyhow, so yeah, this is Adventures of Mark Twain, released in 1985. The UK version, or when it was released in the UK, it was called the Comic Quest. And it was directed and produced by Will Vinton. I don't think I said that, and I should have. And you see a lot of different works of his. It looks like basically it's his short stories that are brought into it more than his actual story, except for Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher and Huck Finn. So, but anyway, so yeah, if you're into claymation animation, and this is also stop motion, but that's what claymation is. It's, before I actually cut off, it's not as polished as Wallace and Gromit. By the time Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run came in, they had polished characters and how they looked with claymation. This is rougher. The characters are rough. And Mr. Bogus, if you go and look at these, Mr. Bogus is a little more polished. Mr. Bumpy isn't. He might be. I didn't watch him as much, but from what I remember, he wasn't as polished. He's kind of in the middle of the transition. But California Raisins aren't. So just be aware that it's the style of the animation is rough and not as polished as what you're probably used to. So, but anyway, yeah, this is a claymation stop motion animation, and it's the adventures of of Mark Twain.